Is Georgia with us?
She is.
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Great. Good afternoon, everybody. I am sorry about the getting to exit last time. It won't happen again. I've made sure of that. I think the first thing, let's say hi, people on Zoom, and then we'll all say a quick hi. And we can get going. Mary, why don't you go first?
Miriam Radner.
Let
me,
yeah,
oh, wait, sorry.
trying to make her think that he's under.
There we go.
Hi. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Miriam Rabner. I am an outreach coordinator and community liaison for MJHS Health System, a nonprofit organization. And I am mostly active at end-of-life situations, hospice and palliative care.
Great. And Alexis. It's so
Hi,
good to see.
I'm Alexis, of course, Marion's daughter, and just a former resident just trying to help out there.
Janine, I don't think I've met you before.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Janine Ventura. I'm the Assistant Commissioner for Interagency Collaboration and Innovation at the New York City Department for the Aging. I presented before this committee many moons ago when I was a Director of Government Affairs, and in person actually, but happy to be back. Thank you.
Josue, welcome back.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Josue Melendez, Deputy Director of Government Affairs here at NYC Aging. Thank you for having us back.
Terrence.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. So Terrence Lee, also from the Department for the Aging, Senior Director from the Office of Interagency Collaboration and Innovation.
Great. Aubrey, welcome.
Thank you, Barbara. Aubrey Balcom from the Hebrew Home for the Aged, also known as River Spring Living, over in Riverdale.
Lee.
Lee Chang, board member.
Thea.
Hello, I'm Thea Teller. I also work at the Department of Aging with Janine and Terrence.
Great. Oh, great. And Georgia.
Hi, everyone. This is Georgia Santiago, and I've long been a not purple, but a people person with a great interest, in my community. And I've been aging community member for years.
Great. Julie. Good afternoon.
Nice to be here.
We can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Julie Reyes, Chairperson, Community Board 8. Glad to be at your meeting.
Okay. I'm blind.
Hi, I'm Sharon Asherman. I'm the director of the New Beginnings Older Adult Center at the Riverdale Y.
And
Mary
Sure.
Claude, I'm a resident in the area and I'm very interested in these matters.
great.
Oh, and I'm Clara Q. Rubin, the District Manager at Bronx Community Board 8.
And I'm Barbara Kale, I'm chair of the committee. One of the reasons I do this is I think, as I believe as Aubrey mentioned at one of the meetings, this is also a place where we can get to know the community resources and collaborate. And so it's a way of knowing that and getting to know people. Okay, I'll do a quick roll call of the members. Here, Lee.
Here.
Catherine is not. Georgia.
Here.
And Jill is not. And Doyle is not. So that gives us 3 out of 5. I think that gives us a quorum to this. Now, the first thing that I'd like to do is I sent the revised mission statement. This is a second revision. based on everybody's commentary, I sent that around, asked for comments, and I think so that we're just not constantly revising. Let's put it. It's in the minutes. I'm wondering if we could put it up on the screen. And just have everybody quickly, I want a yay or a nay, can we post it on the website?
Oh, I don't have, you want that as well? Was that?
Yeah. You know, I can read it. That
Yeah.
would be good too.
That would be good.
Well, here, she has copies here.
Yes, yes. The mission of the Aging Committee of Bronx Community Board 8 is to promote the well-being of older persons in our community. We provide a space where organizations that offer services to older adults are supported and can collaborate. We identify needs of the aging community and advocate for them to bring them to our elected representatives and appointed officials, such as resolutions and budget priorities. And well, does that sound reasonable at this point?
Yes, it does. It does.
Yeah.
Great. I think what we should do is we'll post it. It's easy enough to change if there are other comments, but let's post it
Okay.
because we've got work to do and I want to move on. And not be stuck on this. Thank you so much. Oh, how about that? Everybody's was sent the minutes. Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes?
George or Lee?
I make a
Yes,
motion,
approved.
Barbara.
Great, thank you, Lee. I'll second it. Any objections or abstentions? Sold American. I am going to now give the floor to our guest speakers. What I was looking for, if you can, is highlight age, what makes a community age friendly. 30 minutes, 10 minutes Q&A. Does that sound reasonable to you?
I think so.
Members? Okay. Oh,
Should I let someone share their screen or,
Yes, if you could grant access to Terrence, please.
oh, to Terrence? Okay,
Which one is Terrence?
this one. Did I give you
I have
access?
it. You did. So just give me one moment while I share. Yes.
And while Terrence is sharing screen, so thank you for inviting us to present on the Age Inclusive American Cities guidebook. And I think if you can pull it to the first slide, Terrence, before we.
Can you see that?
Yes,
I got you.
but I think if you can go back.
even better.
To the one with the map. Oh, I guess the map isn't on. Is that the first slide for you?
Yeah, that's the first slide. Let me double check.
Oh, that's.
Yeah, gotcha.
So can you start with that slide?
Yeah.
Great, thank you. So, so as you can see in this map, actually, we have one more city to add. So I'll go through it in terms of how we landed in terms of forming a working group for Age Inclusive American Cities. As was mentioned earlier, you know, age friendly, as we know, is under the rubric of the World Health Organization. But under our commissioner, Lorraine Cortez Vasquez, she's also looking at New York City, given to like push that global agenda. Because age friendly was really based on a way that any community can be more supportive of older adults and aging in place by simple changes that can be, installing benches or having specific swim hours for older adults versus having general hours for everyone at parks, pools. But a lot of these changes are not necessarily long-term. They can also be changed when it comes with changes in administration or changes in terms of policies and priorities. And so her movement was really to have a vision of being age inclusive, meaning that older adults from the beginning, from the outset, are a consideration when it comes to thinking about service delivery, when it comes to program design, and when it comes to forming policy. And so we were not the only city that was looking to do this. Obviously, especially as older adults have now surpassed school-age children as a percentage or as a proportion of the population. And so this is something that we're seeing globally, but obviously also nationally. So this map represents the other cities, the other 18 other cities, but we also have a 19th city that has joined the working group, and I'll talk more about that. So Terrence, if we can advance 2 more slides to the resolution. So the working group was formed in response to a U.S. Conference of Mayors resolution that was introduced by New York City in their at their meeting in June of 2023. And they have an aging representative that also subscribed and understood the necessity of forming a working group nationally of other U.S. Conference of Mayors members to really focus on age-inclusive solutions and proposals, and also other ways that, beyond New York City, other cities can also be age-inclusive. So a working group was formed in response and after the resolution was adopted by the U.S. Conference of Mayors. So as I mentioned, these are the member cities, and these are the member cities as of the time that the guidebook was created. So the guidebook was issued in June of last year. And so as you can see, it's a good representation of cities from the West Coast, from the Midwest, from the Southwest, also in the Northeast and in the South. But the additional city that joined since the guidebook was issued is Denver, Colorado. So I'll go more into the guidebook and what it focuses on, and I definitely saw that it was linked in the agenda, so hopefully all of you have had an opportunity to take a look at it. And so for the Age Inclusive American Cities, we're really framing it based on what are the many ways that cities have already been able to be creative to serve older adult populations. And what we found is, while obviously we are the largest, but every other city has their own. We have similar issues, like in terms of housing and affordability, in terms of food insecurity, et cetera, like civic participation, volunteerism, social isolation, especially that, this is like following the pandemic. A lot of us had those discussions. And of course, given the federal landscape, in terms of ensuring that benefits and resources are still available to the older adult population, regardless, and being able for cities and states to also meet this need in light of the federal environment. And I think at least for the Department for the Aging, the majority of our funding happens to be city tax levy, but then there are many cities that are part of this working group where the majority of their funding is federal funding. So if there's a freeze or if there's a hold or if any changes in the budget, that could impact meals, that could impact programming, whereas we are one of some cities in the working group that, while there could be some impact, it's not the same impact in terms of wait lists, et cetera, for programs like other cities. And the table of contents really focuses on this, the guidebook, in terms of the ways that cities can be age inclusive in terms of activities, in terms of policy priorities, operations, and city planning. And it really is meant to be a way to examples that could be scaled by other cities of any size. So I think one of the questions that we get, of course, is what does it mean to be age inclusive? And this is something that was definitely tackled by the national working group and was a collective definition that was created, meaning that, as I said in the beginning, age-friendly, while of course it's like important for all cities to be age-friendly at a minimum to support aging in place, but it's also important for the inclusion to happen to ensure that it is a long-term sustainable solution that supports aging in place, that aging in place or being age-friendly is not temporary. It's something that obviously it should be a permanency. And the way to ensure that is that older adults are part of the planning stages, the beginning stages, and are always thought of in terms of the execution of anything that a government is looking to do. And so it means to be proactive, right? It is already too late if you're reactive to changes in the population or changes and adapting to needs that have already arisen. It's important for us to be prepared and to like ensure that the aging in place is happening and the population is being supported as it's happening versus, when people are perhaps not able to live in community safely or what have you. And so the whole point is for communities to be reoriented to support aging in place as a whole. And usually to get there, you have to combat ageist stereotypes and stigmas. When people are thinking of like how to deliver policy, it's a lot of times if we're thinking of like workforce or other examples, it's thought about what do youth need? What do younger people need coming out of college, or people who are not pursuing college, fresh out of high school, post-secondary? But the reality is, like during the pandemic, and especially in this city, older adults were an important part of the workforce that kept all of the like mandated services going. When there were, in terms of caregiver, or everything went remote, there have been studies by economists, by the City of New York City Affairs, showing how the increase in older adult employment happened during that pandemic to really meet that need that these services still needed to continue, where the youth employment declined as a result of the pandemic. So it was really older adults that helped to like buoy and shore up the economy at that time. And then part of that, of course, is the way to combat ageism is through intergenerational connections. For people to not really to stay siloed and separating youth and older adults or pitting them against each other is definitely not. It's not productive. And of course, it's not a way to think about when you're thinking about funding or you're thinking about resources. It's not about that competition. It's about intergenerational, how any funding, any community resource really needs to support both pillars of any community, which of course are youth and older adults. And then it's a unifying truth that everyone is aging every day. And this is something that it's not a surprise, right? And also being able to age in place in New York City is, for those of us who like contributed to the city and built it up, it's important for us to be able to like live here and have a high quality of life that comes along with that longevity versus just investing in the longevity. So being age inclusive entails all of that, and ensuring that older adults are always part of those solutions and are part of that design from the outset. So part of the cities is thinking about how are the ways that members of the working group and others can be deliberately age inclusive. And the idea is, again, not to be reactive and not to respond when, all of a sudden people turn 60 or turn 70 or turn 80. It's about planning for these needs and the aging in place population and for aging in place in advance of that. And it's part of those partnerships, it's part of those communications, it's part of partnering with elected officials and community boards and members like you to really thinking about what every community particularity, what those needs are, right? Obviously, older adults are not a monolithic population. Communities in New York City is not have one size fits all in terms of what each community needs. It's very different. From being part of older adult town halls, in every area has, very different needs from other communities that could be in some cases right across the street from each other. And so our responsiveness as a city should be similar and also respond to those particularities as well. So a lot of the age inclusive solutions come through partnership and activity. And another example of that is, it's also the vision of our commissioner that even as the largest area agency on aging nationally, it is not enough for the Department for the Aging to focus on older adults. For example, 1.8 million older New Yorkers reside here, and our agency serves about 230,000 older New Yorkers. In comparison, we also have a cabinet for older New Yorkers with 29 other New York City government agencies. And of course, this is like a very important point, especially in light of what is happening with SNAP. Through HRA alone, serves 530,000 older New Yorkers just through SNAP. And so I've already mentioned how another cabinet member agency serves more than double the number of older New Yorkers that we serve through one benefit program. And so when we think about the implications of what's happening in terms of the shutdown and the continued implications for the longer that it continues, the services, we have sibling agencies that definitely have, that serve more older New Yorkers than we do. So the important part is that partnership, right? Like if someone is enrolling in SNAP or recertifying in SNAP, are they doing it in an age-inclusive way? Are people who are accessing these benefits feel like comfortable or feel like their service that HRA is meeting their needs? And so it's through that collaboration and training that is very important to ensure sibling agencies like HRA and others are providing their service in an age-inclusive manner. So I'll go into some highlights from other cities that are members of the working group. And so Seattle has a training program that is specifically focused on anti-ageism. So it's a requirement, just like in terms of conflicts of interest or sexual harassment training, of all city workers throughout Seattle. So not only for folks that are doing public service or what have you, every city worker in Seattle goes through anti-ageism training. Portland has an age and disability inclusive neighborhood action plan, where any of the city planning that happens in Portland really focuses on needs for people with disabilities and older adults to support aging in place as much as possible. San Francisco has a dignity fund that's part of their charter. And so, and it's a dignity fund that is legislated, and it's specifically in support of older adults, veterans, and people with disabilities and their caregivers. So given that it's legislated, it's a fund that is specifically dedicated to these populations. So should there be any changes in their city budget, or should there be any decreases that they need to absorb given to like reallocations or appropriations or ways that services need to be funded in light of other funding sources, changes in other funding sources, this dignity fund remains the same throughout, and it's legislated as such. Oklahoma City, they have a sales tax for that specifically funds older adult health and wellness centers. So it's like a 5-cent sales tax on everything in Oklahoma City. And an interesting part of this, so if there are other Knicks fans, so there is definitely a player that was a Knick, and he got traded to Oklahoma City. And if you're familiar, they won the NBA championship this past year. And the interesting thing about that is how they even got that stadium was through a huge community outreach to really survey and figure out what was the trade-off. What did Oklahoma City residents want in order to buy in and support a stadium and the relocation of the Seattle Sonics to become the Oklahoma City Thunder to come to their city? And it became clear that for Oklahoma City residents to support the stadium, right? Totally changing the way, in terms of their economy, in terms of their city planning, also volume and everything, in their city. There was an ask and a requirement that they voted on that they needed support for aging in place. So these older adult health and wellness centers are actually for people who are age 50 and older. So those who are younger than those who are eligible for older adult centers and through the Older Americans Act. And they've been able to establish 4 of them. And I think each one is about $13 million, obviously cost of living adjusted. And the biggest one serves 4,800 older adults. So they've already thought that, aging in place needs to start earlier. It cannot be like at 60 plus. It cannot be according to federal guidelines. That this is a request that if you want us to support the stadium and be part of this economic development plan, the community benefit would be an older adult health and wellness center. So since that approval in the 90s, they've established 4 of them. Columbus also has lifting villages. And so so older adults, instead of having to use the app or download it, they have a call center that they contact. And there is a dispatcher that's specific for older adults, will arrange with specially trained Lyft drivers to do transport through Lyft. And it would be ensuring that older adults or the passengers that are using the service are dropped off as close as possible to the entrance, are assisted with any sort of devices or also groceries or carrying anything. All of that is, part of this particularity carve out for older adults using who are part of the lifting village. In Memphis, and I'm sure this is something we experience here in New York City, of course, as we have real estate or property as that infrastructure ages, and if in terms of there's income, when people have a limited income, then trying to it could be cost prohibitive to obviously go through repairs and be able to age in place and stay in a home that you've lived in, for so long and raised families in or what have you, and still stay in the communities that you contributed to. And so what they've done in Memphis is that they have a partnership with Habitat for Humanity that provides free renovations to eligible older adults. So instead of having to find providers for low cost renovations, through the Habitat for Humanity partnership, these renovations happen free of cost for older adults in Memphis. Jacksonville, falls in general, both locally and nationally, are number one reason why older adults are admitted to emergency departments. And so this is something that was being seen obviously in Jacksonville too. And one of the creative ways that they've seen to address falls prevention was to have a play that actually was created by older adults. And it was called Saving Claire. And then they created a play about the importance of fall prevention techniques and also checklists, et cetera, and showing what happens when, when these falls prevention techniques are not followed, whether it's about rugs or other ways to falls prevention proof your home, and other paying attention to the other ways to ensure that to lower the risk of falls. In Miami, they have an Empower 60 course. And in Miami, since there is the county, there is the city, they found that from surveying older adults in Miami, that people were not 100% clear in terms of who was representing them in their government, who was the agency they needed to go to for services, other agencies that they needed for benefits, and whether it was a county or whether it was a city. And so what Miami did was that they created a civic participation course and engagement. So really geared towards and answering all of these questions to streamline and have particularly the older adult population to really be more familiar with the government structure. And then also in addition to that, be more participatory. And so the whole course, in addition to learning all the basics in terms of the differences between city and county and also civic engagement, it culminates in holding a hearing or a mock hearing where, and not like a mock hearing, but also raising real concerns that older adults have in the community to their local council, where they're talking about these are the issues that impact me as a Miami resident. And at the end, that's usually the culmination of this course. So it's to increase that civic engagement that they saw. There was low engagement or participation among older adults in the city. And I think that's it for the highlights. So if there are any questions.
Could we focus on New York, specifically the city, and what the city is doing and what the city thinks is needed?
Sure. So, pardon, I didn't catch the last part.
To be more age inclusive, what do we need, what are we doing, and what do we need to do to move ahead?
So in New York City, we have the Cabinet for Older New Yorkers, which was launched in September of 2022 under this administration. And it was, and so apologies that I didn't focus on that because my understanding was about the guidebook itself, which definitely has New York, but obviously is not the focus. So the Cabinet for Older New Yorkers currently has 30 member agencies representing transportation, public safety, including intergenerational work, and of course, social services and housing, many different areas that we know are important and central to older New Yorkers. And similar, building off of the work of Age Friendly, the whole point of the cabinet is really to institutionalize age inclusive solutions, whether that's through systemic change, whether that's through legislative change, whether that's through structural change. And the cabinet was codified by the city council last year, so that's something that will endure, and that's one of those examples of how we are ensuring that an age inclusive infrastructure is long term. It is not, just age friendly temporarily. It's a long term solution. And so I can go through some of the initiatives that we've done through the cabinet. So initially, one of the first initiatives that we did was through the intergenerational space with New York City Public Schools. And we know New York City Public Schools has done resource guides in response to various issues. One was obviously, in response to the tragedy of George Floyd, and also in response to anti-Asian hate. And these were not resource guides that were built and folded into the curriculum, which we know takes years of review and of course state approval. But what we've decided to do is, in that same vein, also do something in terms of ageism. And it started in New York City public high schools, and there was a superintendent who leads Brooklyn South Schools, who was the first champion. And since that started in the spring of 2023, we've now expanded in K through 12. So other schools have now are teaching anti-ageism education, whether it's making examples out of Disney movies or what have you, really showing the importance of being anti-ageist. It's just as important to be, in addition to be anti-racist, anti-sexist, being anti-ageist is also central. We also, to kind of cement that programming that's happening in New York City Public Schools, the Department of Youth and Community Development also has an intergenerational storytelling initiative called My New York Story in 10 NYCHA communities, where there is an older adult center that is co-located with a Cornerstone. And even though a lot of times the youth programming and the older adult center programming could be in the same space, but because of scheduling, they never interact. The older adult center programming will conclude and then the youth programming will commence. And what we've done is, instead of having these generations and these communities who are actually sharing the same space being passing ships, the idea is to schedule and carve out time for members of both of those communities, from the Cornerstone community and the older adult center community, to really get together and have an exchange. They all live in the same community. And then that's something that we've been doing since 2023 as well. In transportation, we have the Department of Transportation, a member of the cabinet, as you know, that they've been doing a lot of work in relation to Vision Zero. But one of the data points in Vision Zero since the beginning of it, under the de Blasio administration, older adults still continue to be the representative of those who are killed or severely injured as a result of traffic accidents and fatalities. And so that continues to be high, that older adults are overrepresented in that data versus their representation of the population. And so part of that is, what DOT recognized, that, they can analyze data and analyze, which intersections and also the communities where they know there are many older adults living, and ensuring that how they can make engineering changes to ensure that intersections are safer. But who knows these intersections better than members of the community themselves? And so what DOT has done is, in addition to that data analysis, that they have engaged older adults directly and through, particularly through older adult centers, to really do walkability audits with older adult center members who are telling them, you know, yes, you put a countdown clock here, but this is not enough time for me. Yes, thank you for the leading pedestrian interval, but we really also need it at this intersection. And so really getting that on the ground feedback is another cabinet initiative that has happened. I could do a couple more. We've had through our workforce programs, we've had some older adults that are, you know, rejoining the workforce and have been separated from the labor force for some time. And maybe in the time since they've been separated from the labor force, are not familiar with changes in New York City human rights law and changes in terms of their rights in the workplace. Like, you cannot be asked questions as a actual or perceived caregiver. You cannot be asked questions about your employment history, right? Credit history, all of these things that have been recent changes in New York City's human rights and workplace protections. And so the Commission on Human Rights, also another cabinet member, as part of the orientation for older adult workers, they as part of, before they re-enter the workforce, they have an orientation on the latest updates to New York City human rights law and age discrimination protections. Another thing, and this is the last one that I'll mention, since we have like 20 initiatives or more. The police department for a long time, if you see in every precinct and police service area that covers New York City Housing Authority communities, they have youth liaisons, they will have clergy liaisons, of course there are domestic violence officers, but there's never been a dedicated resource or representative to address older adult needs. And so as of World Elder Abuse Awareness Day in June of 2023, there was a designated community affairs officer in every precinct and police service area specific for older adults. So now there are older adult liaisons as well. And I keep saying I'm going to do the last one. In health and hospitals, what we found when Health and Hospitals is another cabinet member, we've worked with them and they've mentioned, you know, our providers, our frontline professionals obviously serve like hundreds, thousands of older adult patients and their caregivers on a regular basis. And they were recognizing that medical and mental health directives, in some cases, in many cases, might not be enough for an older adult patient and their caregiver to really, like, in case they needed more support in relation to food insecurity, in relation to social isolation, right? These are things that Health and Hospitals as a system might not be familiar with. And so what we rolled out to Health and Hospitals, which is part of their training, is we included a webinar on New York City aging services and on our network. And what we've done is, I think we've trained like about 7,000 frontline professionals across the health and hospital system, focusing on geriatric units, but also anyone like behavioral health, other units that have self-identified that reach many older adult patients and their caregivers, also their community health network. So that's something that we've embedded. And now the next thing we're doing is doing an impact. I have patients, you know, following the patient navigation, our patients being connected to the New York City Aging Services Network. What has been the response? Is there any other support that they have needed? If they weren't connected, how could we do better with that? So those are some examples.
Thank you so much. Any other questions? We have a few minutes. What I'd like to do at this point is I'd like to talk to the members of the committee about our resource guidebook and where we
This one?
yes, where to take that. And the implications of what you just said for the guidebook. I spent some time, Aubrey was kind enough, I think in July, to send me several different resource guides. And so what I did was I created a document, if we could share that, no, not that one. If we could share that, and looked at how various resource guides were constructed. And what that meant for, what that might mean for ours. I think we can take,
Can anyone see
can you
this?
see it?
Somewhat.
No, I meant on Zoom.
I
Zoom
mean,
guys.
pinch it and make it bigger, I can.
Yeah, but we can see it.
Yeah.
You need me to make it bigger? Okay.
It's a good idea.
Print bigger.
Yeah, that's not, I don't know if you can do
Or
it.
maybe the print bigger, I don't know if I can do that. But there are a lot, it's 2 pages?
Yes.
Yeah.
pages. I think the thing to do here is, let's take maybe 5 minutes, if we can, to just quickly look at the categories. There are certain categories that of course overlap, like transportation, medical and nutrition, housing.
It's too small to read.
You can't read that?
Some of the parts that, the headings, but not the small.
Yeah, just if you look at the stuff in caps,
Yeah, the caps.
those are the headings.
Mhm.
Let's take a couple of minutes to quickly scan those.
Wow.
Yeah, but now we
Yeah, you can
move it around and
That's a little
move
too-
it up. So you
Oh
can
my
only go
goodness.
one. Can you read that, anyone?
Yes, good eye chart.
It's big, it just, when I pinch
Yeah.
it to make it bigger now, it's like,
What about incorporating what they just presented? Is there something like New York initiatives for that
But
we
there
can
were a
add?
couple of ideas I took away from our last meeting and this meeting. And from our last meeting, I looked at, for example, categories that other resource guides had that we didn't. For example, caregiver categories, services for caregivers. We don't have any services for caregivers listed in there. Advocacy.
Is right at home in there? But that's not, is that for older adult caregivers?
That's a private,
Oh, it's a private,
yeah,
okay.
but it's still, but if you wanna list all the private home care agencies and, you know,
that
if
wasn't.
you wanna just list city services, there is New York City does have caregiver contract, and all the senior centers do, and the NOCs do, provide caregiving services, we all have social workers. But there's also and honestly, I don't know who it is anymore, cause I don't know who has a contract now, but it was a caregiver's contract for our community from DIFTA. And there's also there's a caregiver's contract. There's also mental health contracts from the Department of the Aging. And also an elder abuse contract.
Okay.
So, but they were more like borough-wide, so like in our community, the last time we had a caregiver representative from DIFTA was probably pre-pandemic, and it was Sunnyside Community Services. I haven't heard from anybody since then, so I don't know if there was ever a new contract in this neighborhood. But senior centers have social workers who can help caregivers. And the Alzheimer's Association and Caring Kind have caregiver support groups in I know Riverdale Senior Services, they have either the Alzheimer's Association or Caring Kind has specific caregiver groups there.
Well, all the
So-
senior centers are listed, so
Right.
they can utilize their senior centers
Right.
for a lot of these, right?
So, and they're not called senior centers anymore.
I'm
What
sorry,
they-
I'm sorry.
what are they
Older adult
called?
centers.
What are they called?
Older adult
They're not called senior
centers.
What I had in mind is, I could give an example here, Jill, who isn't here today, takes care of her older mother, who's 90.
Mhm.
Jill wants services for herself as a caregiver.
Right.
We don't have that. We have services for the older person, not services
Right.
for the person.
Right, the only thing in this thing,
Resources for the kids.
resources,
Yes.
resources, so the
Yeah,
only,
write it as resources.
right, resources for the caregiver. So DIFTA, I have to look, I don't know if the DIFTA people know this, because they're from a different department. But we have to see who has the DIFTA caregiving contract.
I could tell you that right now.
Yeah.
For Community Board 8, I believe it is PSS. Are the ones that provide caregiver support. Yeah, so in the Bronx and Community Boards 1 through 8, excuse me, it's PSS, their caregiver support program, and then for 9 through 12, it is handled by Neighborhood Shop because they have their own caregiver support program. So anyone in Community Board 8 who is looking for caregiver support, they would reach out to PSS and they would be able to get access to those services.
So I just for food for thought to the Department for the Aging. I've been an older adult center director for, for 14 years, but at least for definitely post-pandemic, I've had no knowledge that PSS was our caregiver, had our caregivers contract. The last people that I believe has ever any contact with us was Sunnyside Community Services, and that was before the pandemic. So just, by way of information. Also their Riverdale, our community board, or parts of it are extremely difficult to reach for Presbyterian Social Services. Like if I wanted to take public transportation to their main office, it would take 2 hours. So I'd have to take the BX7, we're just really out
Where
of
is
the
it
way.
located?
So that's just something to note, so there needs to be some outreach to us.
I'll definitely take that back to the caregiver program and let them know about some of this feedback.
Right.
So that was another category I was thinking of, tech education, advocacy. And I will email these, the document with these categories. I don't know if I've emailed them to you all, but I will email them because I'm thinking next steps is this works for everybody. I will email these and I will email everybody as well. Invite, I'd like a small group of us, or as many as are interested, but not necessarily everybody. Email me and we will start working on going through these categories and refining them and then bring them back.
Yeah, and then we can
Next
add
meeting.
it to the.
Exactly. And so I have a few ideas. I will do that. And then after that, for each category, I haven't seen this. But think about it. It seems to me that it's very important to have point of entry.
Mhm.
Where do you enter the system? Who do you go out to first? Who do you reach first?
Sequence.
For example, under the section on crime and elder abuse and blah blah, people should know about the dedicated officer, and that should be the first thing you see. I think it's something for us to discuss. But so
Barbara?
that people want to. Yes.
I think when we're reviewing this, we should also be thinking how we categorize or describe the services. If I'm looking for some support because my grandmother is starting to suffer from some memory loss or some dementia, I might not know that I should look under the caregiver support category or that I could go to the older adult center. I'm thinking about what is the need that I'm trying to address. So again, just thinking to your point, how do we describe some of these things, or what's the entry point, or what's going to resonate with the individual?
Absolutely. I'm going to be very bold, Audrey. I hope that you'll help me. That you'll be part
No,
of this.
absolutely. I will.
But I don't like to put anybody on this spot.
You know, I don't know how many people, you know, and I'll just give a little shout out to the Riverdale Y. I don't know how many people necessarily know that within that older adult center, they have the vast array of programs and services that they offer. Unless, you know, someone's thinking or someone has said, do you know you could go, you know, they offer these great opportunities for socialization, or you could get a hot meal, or, you know, they do exercise programs. I just think we need to think about what will resonate.
Absolutely.
Well, yeah, maybe we can reach out to each older adult center and ask what services they do provide that can be listed under each, you know, because they are all listed in the guide as of now. But I don't think it's lists all the services.
That's a
So
great
that could
idea.
be,
And we're still, and then we'll add whatever, Vista has found when they were looking through it. I know because when we talked about that the last, so whenever you can, if you get that to us. But I will reach out this week, and maybe next week, we can, those who are interested can, we can meet with a Zoom. I would love as many people to participate as conceivable. The more the better. And we'll start with looking at the categories, what do we want to add, how can we make them more user friendly, like Aubrey was saying, more intuitive. Question.
So here's an idea, cause I'd love to participate, but I'm looking at it as a provider.
Yes.
If you wanted a small group of non-affiliated seniors, we could have our advisory council members look at it from our senior center, because again, I'm not the person using the resource directory, and I actually use the last resource directory continuously, but as a provider. So, and it's interesting if you're talking about community members looking at it, what would they want? It's probably very different.
It may well be.
Right.
Let's talk on
Okay.
Zoom.
Sure.
And figure out
I'm going
the
to.
person, the best person to be.
You need more paper?
No, I just scribble when then I throw it out. It just helps me remember.
I will
Yeah.
reach out this week. And our next meeting is December 11th. Well, actually, wait, is there any other new business that people want to bring up? Our next meeting is December 11th, Thursday. And I can't thank all of you enough for being here.
Thank you to the NYC aging presentation.
Great presentation.
It's great presentation.
A lot of good info.
Yeah. Very comprehensive.
yeah, if there's any specific services in those New York City aging programs you mentioned, maybe we can receive that as well. That's helpful in the senior resource guide that this committee is working on.
Sure, we can work through Hostway.
And Janine, just, will New York City Aging be hosting another Boom conference again this year, or is that going to be? Do we have any update?
Definitely not this year.
Okay,
So
I wasn't sure where we stood on that.
yeah, I think you know, I'm not gonna say that the plan wasn't to do it again. I mean, we obviously, as you know, and I think several of us here definitely put in a lot of elbow grease in that conference last year. And then there was two of the sessions. One was focused specifically on the cabinet work for cabinet for older New Yorkers, and had agency heads present there. And then there was also, we had representatives from the National Age Inclusive Working Group also present. So on the national work on a lot of the initiatives that I mentioned that you heard from them directly. So I don't think right now there are plans, but that doesn't mean there will never be another conference. I think a lot of attendees said that this was like the first time they'd been at a convening like this that was very New York City specific, and also talking about gathering you know, aging services and other adjacent services and other interested parties in aging in place. So I think because we had like workforce and health and of course all these other interrelated areas. So I think I don't want to say it won't happen ever again, but I think it was a success that there's a possibility that it may happen again in the future.
I will share that there's a small group of friends and colleagues that have been wondering if that was going to happen again. So for whatever it's worth.
That's great.
Like
Yes.
that.
Definitely not this December though.
Yeah.
If we have ideas or suggestions or concerns that we want to bring to Barbara and the committee's attention, and you say email them, where should we email them to? Is there a direct email or does it have to go to the offices?
Yeah, to the board office, Bronx Community Board 8, our email is BX for Bronx. 0, the number 0, the number 8. So BX08 at CB for Community Board. Dot NYC for New York City. Dot GOV for government.
Okay.
And they could CC Barbara as well.
What?
What was that?
Oh, my computer's, if they could CC Barbara as well.
Can't find that.
Yeah, you could send an attention to
Absolutely.
Barbara.
Absolutely, and if it's okay with you, I'll add my personal.
Of course. Oh no, add your BX08 email.
I would send it to both emails.
Yeah, your
If it
Barbara
works.
Kale CB8 email.
Oh, I don't check, okay.
Do you not have one? I'm sorry,
No,
go
I
right
don't.
ahead, go
Ford.
right ahead.
I have a Fordham email.
Oh, give them your email.
I will put both, I have a list of members, I'll put both. When I send out an email, I have a Google contact list.
Okay.
So I will be doing that this week, to start figuring out and getting a committee together, maybe. But we can hang out for 2 weeks. Anything else, any other questions? Comments? Thank you so very, very much. I look forward to seeing you then in December.
You have to vote to adjourn the meeting.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll motion.
That has to be Lee or Georgia.
I'll second it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Meeting adjourned.
Have a great night, guys.
Thank you for everything else.
Very informative.
Thank you for the invite, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye, Georgia. Bye, Julie.
Bye bye.
Bye.